I'm Christine and welcome to Book Talk. Today we are discussing a book that has been 7 years in the making. We have waited and we have theorized and it's here. Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Last Hour series, which takes place after the Infernal Devices. And those characters are in it and they're the parents. And if you haven't read the Infernal Devices yet, you should probably read that before you pick this up. I know you're gonna ask, do I have to read every single Shadowhunter book to read this book? And in theory, you don't have to read any Shadowhunter books to read this book. But why would you not read the Infernal Devices series, which is perfect? It's 3 books and it comes before this, and you'll be spoiled for everything that happens in those books. Not everything, but like all the big plot points, you'll know if you read this first. And you don't want that, because this is amazing. I don't know if you've heard, but it's my favorite trilogy of all time. You don't want to miss it. I have finished Chain of Gold. It was wonderful. What can I say without spoiling it? We're following Cordelia Carstairs. She's Jem's cousin. She's 16. We're in the year 1903. Something I really love about Chain of Gold is that we flip between the present and the past when these characters were growing up. So we get to see glimpses of them earlier on throughout the book. As far as my rankings of first books in Cassie's series, I think this is my second favorite behind Lady Midnight. If you're new to the Shadowhunter world, I'd recommend reading all of these in order of publication, and to find the order of publication, you use the Google. I just had the most fun ever reading this book. Toward the end, I did get flustered, but the amount of times that I gasped and yelled and said things out loud while I was reading, I can't tell you how many times, because there were so many. There was so much stuff being unveiled. There are so many events in Chain of Gold. There's so much socializing. There's a lot of demon fighting as well, but the socializing is my favorite part of every book. Everyone is always dressed fancy in Chain of Gold, and when they're not dressed fancy, they're dressed in gear. But a lot of times when they're fighting, they're still dressed fancy because they weren't expecting to be fighting. So since the Infernal Devices ended and they started having children, there haven't been many demons around London. This new generation of Shadowhunters hasn't had that urgency all the time. They haven't been working in the field per se. They've been training all their lives, but they haven't actually fought demons like our Shadowhunters that we've known throughout the other series that are always on patrol and always dealing with life or death situations. They've just been trained for the life or death situations. So in Chain of Gold, demons are coming out of the woodwork again, and everyone's like, what's happening? Why have they been gone so long? What's triggering the resurgence? We're up in the club here. This book gets an A+. Fine, I'll give it an A because I didn't like it as much as Lady Midnight and I need to have some sort of scale, but I loved it so much. If you haven't read Chain of Gold yet, treat yourself to this book. I'm about to go into spoilers. Get ready. Goodbye, non-spoilery people. Goodbye. 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 The reason that I can't hold Chain of Gold at the same standard as Lady Midnight is because something started to happen toward the end that made me want to throw it across the room. I was on an airplane, so I couldn't, but I did close it and stare angrily out the window until I was so bored that I had to open it up again and keep reading. You know what I'm talking about if you read it. If you're still reading Chain of Gold, beware that I could jump to an end spoiler at any moment. Our book starts off with a Lucy chapter. Lucy is running through the forest. She's 10 years old. She falls in a fairy trap, and this dude helps her out of it. She assumes he's a changeling. Soon into the book, we find out that it's Jesse Blackthorn. I put down the book and went into complete detective mode. I probably had already gone into detective mode because Grace Blackthorn is this random bitch and I don't know where she came from. Jesse Blackthorn, turns out he's not a fairy, he's a ghost. We start reading this book and we hear that Tatiana's son died, Tatiana's husband died, which I went back and read that in Clockwork Princess. Her husband Rupert Blackthorn died, and she must have been pregnant at that time because the following year she gave birth to Jesse Blackthorn. Jesse Blackthorn, according to Clockwork Princess, marries Lucy Herondale. Not only are they married, but there's a line down and it says see extended Blackthorn family tree. That means that our necromancy practicing Blackthorns are descendant of a fucking ghost. He's a ghost that's not like other ghosts. He can be felt. She can feel him. He has a physical presence, but he is dead. It turns out the Blackthorns have always been hopelessly intertwined with necromancy. And this is where it starts. Tatiana Blackthorn is practicing dark magic from seemingly the Black Book that we see all throughout the Dark Artifices. I stared at this for an extensive period of time, and then I finally started looking at the years. Lucy Herondale and Jesse Blackthorn are 11 years apart. He died at 17 or 16 because he couldn't take marks. He was one of those rare Shadowhunter cases that when he got his first mark, he got very, very ill and then died. Tatiana has been researching black magic through demons and any warlock that will tell her anything, and she saves his last breath in this locket that Jesse has around his neck, and she saves his body and carts it around with them for the rest of her life in hopes that one day they'll figure out the entire spell to bring Jesse back to life. At the end of this book, we see that Lucy is determined to help this happen because Jesse saves James's life at the end of the book using his last breath that was meant to bring him back to life. It's all a big mess because it's all just leading to more necromancy. According to this family tree, we have to infer that she does succeed in bringing Jesse Blackthorn back to life, which must lead down to all the million Blackthorns that we see in TDA because there are no other Blackthorns right now. It's only Tatiana and her ward, fucking Grace. Grace Cartwright. I don't even want to get into this right now, but Grace Cartwright, she's attached to Christopher Lightwood, and her line goes down directly to Robert Lightwood. I don't know what's happening with this family tree. So Lucy Herondale, she's gonna be a writer. She's gonna be Cordelia's Parabati. I can't wait for them to do that ceremony. It was so cool to see two women Parabati fighting together and slaying the world. Lucy can talk to the dead. She can demand things of the dead. She can control the dead. There's something unusual about you, Lucy. You have a power that is tied to the dead. If only I had a power that was tied to bread and butter pudding. We've seen Annabelle be successfully brought back to life. And we know that it was a very dark process. And I do not want Lucy Herondale involved in that sort of shit. But I know Grace, who's a piece of dark shit, who doesn't care about anyone. Oh, God. I hurt her so much. Every time she's on the page, I was like, get the fuck out of here. Get out. That bitch is trained. We know she is because she threatens Magnus in the Midnight Air. She keeps saying she's not trained. She is trained. She's her mother's blade. When Magnus offers to help her get out of the situation, and when anyone offers to help her get out of the situation, she doesn't want to. And she doesn't mind doing horrible shit. So Lucy might get dragged into this horrible shit with Grace. Even if she finds out that the ceremony to bring someone back to life is really, really bad. Hopefully, because Lucy Herondale is some goddess warrior of necromancy death, she can find a different way. Maybe she can use her powers in some way. Necromancy is dark stuff. Jesse Blackthorn hasn't been dead for half as long as Annabelle Blackthorn, so it's possible that he can come out much better. He hasn't been in the microwave as long, and he's been around as a ghost, so he hasn't just been, you know, stewing. Let's talk about Tatiana Blackthorn, who hates the world for no apparent reason. She hates the Herondales, she hates her brothers, she hates Shadowhunters in general because of how her life went. Your dad killed himself via sex with demons. He got an STD and he died. Your dad killed your husband, and your dad almost killed your brothers and your brother's friends, but luckily they killed him first. He was a demon. But she needed to find someone to blame. Everyone who could possibly reach out and assist her and be a friend, she decided to hate. And she's raising Grace Blackthorn. I can't help but think that she has been studying dark magic with Tatiana all these years in hopes of bringing Jesse Blackthorn back to life, but also in hopes of helping her mom achieve this crazy revenge dream that she has. From the very beginning, I knew that Tatiana was behind all of this. I don't think that was a big surprise. You could probably just sense it from reading the book, but if you read The Midnight Air, she straight up says that she wants to hire Magnus to kill 3 Shadowhunter families or 3 Shadowhunters or something. That just really starts to align very well with what's going on in Chain of Gold immediately. She teams up with Belial, the Prince of Hell, Tessa's dad. They make a deal. If she can deliver James, he will help her find her revenge. We don't have a little card for Tatiana Blackthorn, but I'm picturing her a lot like Mrs. Peacock from the Clue movie in the 80s. They had the same hat. She's always wearing the same freaking dress. I don't understand this woman. Is this part of her aesthetic? I also don't understand, like, she and Grace are always living in a rundown house that's covered in beetles, demons. Is this a requirement for dark magic, or does the side effect of using so much dark magic make the house more disgusting? You would think they'd at least try to clean up a little. Like, it could be a little dirty, but every house is run down to the maximum. It's the maximum wanted in each one of their living spaces. I don't understand. If I was Grace, I would at least try to make it pretty. Even if my mom didn't, I would work on it little by little. Because, ew. Tatiana Blackthorne is a crazy, bitter asshole, and she is going to be our big bad in this series. Should we talk about the 9 Princes of Hell? We have to talk about the 9 Princes of Hell. As soon as I got to that section of the book, I stopped. Cassie has finally written out all the 9 Princes of Hell. We always just randomly hear about, like, your dad's a Prince of Hell, he's a Prince of Hell, and it's just like, who are the Princes of Hell? What are they? Well, we have no idea. James does some research on the 9 Princes of Hell. It was fairly obvious to me after reading the descriptions which one must be his papa. For some reason, it wasn't obvious to James. We got SAMMAEL. Get ready for me to mispronounce these to the 9. SAMMAEL, he was the first to loose demons on Earth. We got Prince number 2, AZAZEL. He was a forger of weapons. He fell from grace when he gifted humans with instruments of violence. Thanks for that. Then we've got Belial, who did not walk among men. Quote, Prince of necromancers and warlocks, a thief of realms. Okay? Right there are some red flags, James. He did not walk among men. You walk into these random other realms. You're walking amongst not men sometimes. The Prince of necromancers. Now, I know he's not aware of Lucy, but we are. Dead people are her servants. Ding, ding, ding. Necromancy. It has the word warlocks. Your mom's a warlock and a thief of realms. Even if you don't know, he steals realms. The word realms. You go into other realms. Number 4 is Mammon, Prince of greed and wealth. He could be bribed by riches. Does that sound like you? 5 is Astaroth. He tempted men to bear false witness and take advantage of the grieving. Number 6 is Asmodeus, who I feel like we've heard of. I don't know, have we? I feel like I recognize his name. He's the demon of lust and the general of Hell's army. 7 is BELPHEGOR. This is the one that James is like, do you think my grandpa is BELPHEGOR? The Prince of Sloth and Tricksters? Where are the clues there, James? What are you going off of? Do you see yourself as a snake oil salesman? You're not exactly a trickster. Where does Prince of Sloth and James Herondale line up for you? Prince 8 is Leviathan. He's the demon of envy, chaos, and the sea. 9 is the most famous of them all, Mr. Lucifer, the leader of the Archangels, the most beautiful. That's a very obvious choice here. I love that when we meet Belial at the end, he looked like Tessa and James. I know he's portraying what he wants James to see, but still, it was fascinating to be like, whoa, he looks like he is cursed to not be able to walk among men, and he wants to be able to. And he can only do that by possessing somebody, and he can only possess somebody of his own blood. Apparently, he wanted to do this with Tessa, but he couldn't get to her because good old Ithoriel was there acting as the bouncer to Tessa's body. Bitch, you ain't getting in. And now, James is his new target. For one hot second, when James was in the other dimension with Belial, I was really afraid that we were gonna go that route where James gets possessed and nobody knows that James is possessed. The only note I have here is fuck no. Don't do this. Do not torture me in this way. I've gone through that pain too many times in the Vampire Diaries. I love that James isn't fallen for any of this demon shit. They keep offering him to like, if you embraced your demon side, you'd have so much power. James refuses to be peer pressured by these demons, by his grandpa. He automatically doesn't trust them. And I'm always like, thank God you learned something from your dad. That scene where Grace, thank God, broke up with James was very exciting. But then when Matthew caught her outside and she admitted that she didn't care about anyone. James has loved you sincerely since he was a child, and now you tear his heart to pieces, and for what? Charles will never feel half of what James feels for you. Feelings, that's all men think women want, isn't it? Sympathy, sentiment, nonsense. I have never felt any tenderness for anything or anyone living. What the fuck? Have you truly never felt anything for anyone? My brother, but then he's not now living. Grace is a sociopath. Does Matthew not remember that exchange? Because the first thing that I would say to my best friend in the world, whose girlfriend just broke up with him, was that she is a crazy asshole who just forced me to kiss her. There's something about her touch. She's been enchanted with dark magic that anyone who touches her loves her or cares about her or desires her. That's why she's always telling James to kiss her, because it reanimates that spell that links him to her. You see it start to wear off during the book, like even when he's wearing the bracelet. The bracelet is presumably the spell, but it's also linked to her, and if she touches him, the spell is stronger. So every time he sees her, the spell refreshes. But when he's away from her for long periods of time, he starts to forget that she exists. He's like, oh, that's weird that I didn't even think about her. Because you don't want to think about her, you're under a spell. Why hasn't anyone figured this out? Why isn't anyone anyone questioning why he's getting married with some other girl's bracelet on his wrist. You don't know how many times at the end of the book I was like, take it off now. Why don't you just take it off logically? You're marrying Cordelia, so it's rude to have a bracelet from Grace on your wrist. What are you doing? And why didn't Matthew question it? Why didn't he be like, why are you wearing that bracelet again? Why didn't he think that there was something suspicious? Because Grace said all this evil shit after they broke up. She's evil. Why aren't they more suspicious? If I was Matthew, I would have taken that bracelet off of James myself. I would have told him exactly what happened. Grace threatens him and is like, if you do anything against me, I will tell James that you kissed me. So what? Big whoop. I'm his Parabachi. He's gonna believe me because he can feel my emotions. Why doesn't Matthew tell James anything? Is it that he's drunk and he can't remember? Is that it? Because he seems to be able to remember everything else. Why doesn't he bring it up at the end when they seemingly get back together automatically for no apparent reason? It drives me crazy. I knew she was coming back with that bracelet. I can't believe they let her in the room with James. If anyone was listening at the door, they would have heard him be like, I don't even want you here, Grace. She just puts the bracelet on. If you're a real friend, you tell him exactly what shit you heard her doing. Why hasn't Lucy been like, hey, you know Grace is using dark magic with her brother? I feel like she eventually tells him that. I don't know. I'm so mad right now. I don't even remember. I wanted to throw the book across the world when that happened. I was like, I can't even read this. I can't even read this right now. Okay? He's obviously in love with Cordelia. He's been in love with Cordelia this whole time, but he's been under this spell. His whole relationship with her is a huge trap. I don't know why there weren't red flags from the very beginning. Tatiana Blackthorne hates the Herondales, right? Yet, one day, she randomly comes into their kitchen and is like, boy, Herondale boy, I need you to cut down the thorns on my fence. Bitch, your fence has been covered in thorns for years! But today, she comes in and she decides to ask him to cut it. He thinks it's a little weird, but he doesn't really question it. She gives him a knife that doesn't work. He still doesn't question it. They don't come off no matter what he does. And a second later, her ward comes down and is like, hi, my name's Grace. Will you talk to me? I mean, could it be more of a setup? Lucy knew that he was going over there to cut vines sometimes. Will and Tessa, even though he thinks they don't know, like kids think their parents don't know about shit when they're growing up, but they do know about it and they just let them do it. So maybe their good-heartedness made them think that Tatiana was warming to their son. I don't know, but she clearly still hates them and she clearly brought them together. This whole thing has been a giant trap. Tatiana shows up in her carriage to pick up Grace and she's like, that's enough. Leave my daughter alone, Herondale. I don't need you luring her into trouble. This bitch has some nerve being such a consistent asshole to James Herondale after she set this up in the first place. She's playing all sides and it's so infuriating that no one sees it. Like, she's clearly insane. She never changes her clothes. Why doesn't anyone ever question, like, do you need a new dress? Can I get you one? If I saw this woman, if I was Tessa, I would be like, please let me get you a new dress. Anyone who sees her should be like, are you okay? You've been wearing this dress for 15 years. Please let me help you. I went back and read Clockwork Princess, the scene where Rupert dies and she's wearing the same fucking dress. The same headdress with the bird on it. She's like a zombie. Every time Grace pretended to be all upset about going back to Tatiana, to James, and James would be like, come with us, come to the Institute. If Grace came to the Institute, I would not put it past her to slaughter you all in her slate. Do not let her infiltrate your family. I cannot tell you how hard I hated the scene where Grace took James and was like, marry me tonight, James. If you love me, you'll marry me tonight and we'll leave Shadowhunter and never see your family, your friends, or be a Shadowhunter again. But you'll live with me and that should be enough if you love me. Why would she even want that? I don't even understand. She wants power. She doesn't actually care about James. Why would she want to leave the Shadowhunterdom and be with him? It doesn't make any sense. It's so mean. I'm so glad James was like, no. I'm so glad Cordelia freaked out when he told her. He's like, that is not love. That is a test and love should never be a test. Cordelia stands up for everything that's right all the time. She's awesome. And it's the best. That's why she's not going to let that bracelet slide. She's going to see it in the next book and she's going to take it off. And they're gonna realize that something is up with that fucking bracelet. If they don't, I'm gonna be mad. Magnus has to see that bracelet. Magnus has to touch it. And Magnus has to know that there's dark magic in it. That's what's gotta happen. Magnus is gonna save the day on all sorts of fronts. Now that Magnus is here, everything's gonna get better in the next book. Oh my god, what if he and Matthew go shopping together? It's gonna be wonderful. Oh, Grace. I have so many notes that just like, ew, Grace. When Tatiana got attacked, I was not fooled for 1 second.